Welcome back to this channel. My name is Namatovu Hannah and I am the lead nutritionist at Acquire Nutrition Company. And today on our nutrition tips, we are talking about nutrition in the disorders of the stomach. And today in particular, we are talking about ulcers. First of all, the stomach is the organ that receives food when it is eaten. It passes through the tube, the esophagus, into the stomach. The stomach is in the upper abdomen, so when it receives this food, it stores it, then it mixes it with acid, it mixes it with enzymes such as pepsin and other enzymes that I am sure you know, and then it releases the food into the small intestines. The stomach has a volume, a capacity of 4 liters. It can store up to a volume of 4 liters. Yeah, when it is full, but when it is empty, only 50 milliliters. It also produces acid, hydrochloric acid to be exact, to a maximum of 2 liters per day. This acid can help to kill the bacteria that invade your body through food. When you consume contaminated food, when you consume contaminated water that is spoiled, that has been around for a long time after it was prepared, it contains some germs. This acid deals with them. However, not all of them, some are resistant. Okay, so this acid deals with, it breaks down protein, but we also know that our stomach walls, the body tissues, the linings, they are made of protein. So how does the stomach protect itself from being broken down? By the enzymes such as pepsin, which breaks down proteins, and this acid, which breaks down the food. From being burned by the acid, the stomach produces mucus, a mucus layer, a coating that lines the walls of the stomach to protect them from being attacked by this acid. Yes, this mucus is it is produced by some specialized cells that are responsible for that. So, in case this mucus, the production of this mucus coating, this mucus layer, is interfered with by external factors, that is when we find that our stomach walls are exposed to this acid or to the enzymes, and they are burned through, or they're being broken down, digested by the enzymes, and we find that you are likely to develop a wound, which is what we call an ulcer. Yes, but before it progresses to ulcers, first it becomes inflammation when there is only damage. And when there is only damage, we call that gastritis. So gastritis is injury to the cells of the stomach. They have been damaged by maybe enzymes or acid, sometimes even germs that are resistant to the other acid that we talked about. Yes, so gastritis can be, first of all, before it progresses to gastritis, you can have what we call abdominal discomfort, upper abdominal discomfort or pain that is persistent. So in that case, you just have early onset symptoms, and you have things like bloating, a lot of gas, belching, you're ever belching, you are experiencing pressure, you have a sensation of early satisfaction when you have just started to eat. That is early onset. When it progresses to gastritis, you develop symptoms such as vomiting, such as nausea, lack of appetite. Yeah, you develop certain things such as pain. You feel pain in your stomach, and in that part, the lower part of the esophagus, that tube that takes food down to the stomach. Then, if it is not treated, if it is not dealt with, it progresses to ulcers, which is the wound. We can see the lesions. Now, what we recommend can differ in before you develop gastritis, and in peptic ulcer disease. So they diagnose ulcers using an endoscopy. They also diagnose ulcers using blood tests for bacteria parasites. The ulcers that are caused by bacteria parasites. This parasite is called H. pylori. We shall call it H. pylori. It is called Helicobacter pylori, but we shall call it H. pylori. This is a bacteria. It is resistant to the hydrochloric acid, but it infects, it causes an infection in your stomach, that even in the small intestines, that can result into a wound, an ulcer. Now this bacteria, I mentioned that it can be consumed through contaminated food and drink. Yes, that is how it spreads. You consume food that is contaminated, so you need to guard against that. This bacteria also does not go on its own. It has to be treated for it to go. However, the longer you remain with it, the worse the complications. This bacteria also results into stomach cancer. Most of the cases of stomach cancer began with H. pylori. So you need to get tested, because it is very common in schools. It is most common in underdeveloped countries. We find it mostly in African countries. In developed countries, it can be like 30% of the population, but in underdeveloped countries about 87%. Now that is really high. Yes. So when you have those early onset symptoms, the ones that I talked about, you're just having discomfort or pain, you're just belching a lot, bloating, there is early satisfaction when you're eating, you feel full, you feel pressure in your abdomen, we recommend that you consume frequent small meals, smaller meals. Yeah, you reduce on the fat, you identify those problematic foods and you eliminate them, or you reduce them, especially if you like them a lot. So spicy foods exacerbate this condition, they make it worse. That is what I mean. High fat foods also make it worse. In cases of peptic ulcers, we recommend that you lower alcohol intake, because excess alcohol intake makes the condition worse. Tobacco and tobacco products also make the condition worse. Bicarbonate secretion, mucosal blood flow secretion. I hadn't mentioned mucosal blood flow, what we call the blood flow in that mucosal lining. Remember I talked about that mucus coating. So the lining behind the mucus layer has blood vessels that are passing through, and when blood is being regulated, blood is flowing properly, blood carries away the excess acid. Yes, in a process of excretion, it carries it away and it takes it away, so it does not accumulate to burn through your tissues, your lining, to cause wounds in your stomach. But if the process of proper blood flow is interfered with, we find that you are exposed to developing ulcers. Also, bicarbonate, it helps with the pH, it helps with the processes that produce the mucus, and production of bicarbonate can be interfered with. These are produced by glands. Yeah, the bicarbonate is produced by certain glands, and if that process is interfered with, we find that you are likely to develop ulcers. We recommend that you reduce on the products that interfere with those processes. If you have symptoms such as a sharp sudden pain, if you have symptoms such as bloody stool or black stool, the stool that you're passing looks like ground coffee, that means that you have a peptic ulcer. If you have bloody vomit, when you vomit you see blood, that means you have an ulcer, which is a wound. Yes. If you feel obstruction, that means that there is an ulcer in your stomach. So you must be on the lookout. You need to lower alcohol consumption, tobacco consumption, or its products. Spices, spicy food needs to also be reduced. When it comes to pepper, red pepper, black pepper, there is a component that is called capsaicin. It is responsible for that burning sensation when you eat food that has chili or pepper in it. It makes the ulcers worse. You need to eliminate. Yes. Decrease coffee consumption or caffeine products such as Coke, Pepsi, those products that you know have caffeine. These energy boosting drinks that contain caffeine, reduce them. And we also recommend that you increase consumption of foods that are rich in omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. This is because of the anti-inflammatory properties of these nutrients. They reverse the other inflammation process that begins the whole development of the ulcers. Fermented foods are good, such as yogurt. Yeah, we have fermented cabbage, cheese. Those are good, unless you're on a fat restricted diet. There we recommend that you consume yogurt made from skim milk. Cooked non-spicy soft foods are also good because they're easy to digest. Now, if your system is already compromised, you need foods that are easy to digest. Anti-inflammatory products are good, such as there is a product called curcumin. It's a herb or a spice, but it is extracted from the herb that we know called turmeric. Pronunciation turmeric is that herb that it looks like ginger, but when it's raw it looks like ginger, but when it's ground it is orange. Now they extract a herb called curcumin, and that herb, it is very good. It has anti-inflammatory properties, it has antioxidant properties, antibacterial properties. It is really good, and we find that it is a main component in a lot of the treatment for ulcers. Milk has always been known to be good for a short period of time, but not for a prolonged period. It may not help you for a prolonged period. The reasoning was that since it is protein, the pepsin concentrates on digesting that protein instead of, generally we recommend a high quality diet where you eliminate foods that mess with the processes that are protective, and you eliminate foods that make the condition worse. Thank you so much for listening.